record starting now.
Cool.
Did you want to start with the portfolio review or did you want to start with some high-level questions?
Let's see. I wrote down a bunch of questions. Actually, yeah, let's just start with the portfolio review. That should be good.
Cool. Do you want to share your screen or do you want to show me a link? What's your preferred way of doing this?
I think it'd be cool if I just send you a link and like you kind of
Okay, perfect.
um
That's my preferred way as well. Let's do
so
that.
let's do that. Send it in the chat.
Okay,
Yeah, I think that's it.
gotcha. All right, so here.
Are you in Cali?
Yeah.
Or oh, okay. I thought I remember like seeing like a story that you were in Toronto or something, so I thought you were in.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm from Toronto, but yeah, like I'm in Cali for work now. I was
Okay.
gone for a couple months due to COVID.
Oh, okay.
All right,
Okay.
cool. So I'm gonna share my screen. Okay. Can you see?
Yeah.
All right. So before I dive in here, can you give me a sense of your background and also kind of the level you want to go in at, so I can kind of tailor my feedback to to you personally.
Yeah. So I have about 2 years of experience. I graduated from college in 2018, and then I did graphic design. So I have more of a visual design background.
Mhm.
And then got my first UX job at Walmart. That was after I graduated. So I was there since. So I got laid off back in August
Mhm.
this of 2020. But yeah, so about 2 years of experience at Walmart, working on like a number of different teams. But the last team I was on was like about 1.1.5 years. It was grocery. It was more on the like associate fulfillment side of grocery. So not the customer facing, like you go on Walmart.com, place an order, not like e-com stuff, but more so on fulfillment, like all the tools the store associates use to be able to do their work. And then so laid off back in August. Actually had to take a bunch of time off because I got really sick. My skin, I have eczema, and it just started to flare really badly and really bad.
Oh,
And I'm still on like recovering right now. So I'm kind of passively looking for new opportunities just because I'm trying to like fully recover. Um, but yeah, in terms of like I guess like roles or next jobs I'm looking for,
mhm.
definitely want something, a place where tech company with a really strong design background or strong design culture, because I feel like that's just the best environment to learn and grow as I'm still young in my career. uh, and my experience so far, like I said, more on I worked at Walmart, more on the associate side. The only like customer facing thing I have is that first one, Mixbowl, which was more of a freelance thing I did a few months ago. And yeah, so I guess more like junior to mid-level role, since I have about 2 years. I don't know, is that what you think
Uh,
aligns with?
so Facebook and any FANG company generally down levels you from where you are traditionally come
Oh,
from.
okay.
Like for example, if you go between Google and Facebook and
Yeah.
Amazon, Apple, you keep your level. But if you come from outside of those companies in, you're usually down leveled at least by one level, just to set expectations.
Yeah.
So it's still possible for you to get in at a mid-level position.
Yeah.
Um, just mentally be prepared that you might get down leveled into junior. That being said, a FANG junior level salary is probably still higher
Yeah.
than a mid-level salary that you would get anywhere else.
Yeah. Okay. And like for me, I don't really mind levels or anything. I
Mhm.
think I value like career growth. Like that's like my top priority right now.
Cool.
So, and I think, like you said, like junior at a Fang, I think that's just like the best of I guess like what's out there. So I think
Okay.
that'd be cool.
Well, before we dive into the portfolio, I also want to give you some high-level advice on how to kind
Yeah.
of position your skill set and
Yeah.
how to tackle your skill development. So in terms of like opportunities, there's startup, agency, mid-sized company, and also corporate.
Mhm.
So we're targeting Facebook right now. So it's on the corporate end. So
Mhm.
generally, the type of experience that you'll get is you'll get a lot of experience in terms of collaboration, especially with cross-functional and multidisciplinary people.
I'm
And
just taking notes.
yeah, you'll get the recording too, but feel free to take notes if you want.
Okay.
Um,
Okay. Yeah.
no worries. You'll also get a ton of experience on more of the product thinking and interaction design,
Mhm.
whereas visual design, you probably won't get as much experience because generally these companies have a very, very established and robust design system. So
Mhm.
any visual design experience you do get is going to be the application of that design system. And generally at a junior to mid-level, you won't get very much opportunity to create any new visual patterns for yourself.
Mhm.
Um, and also in terms of the scope, at a big company, when you're more junior, the scope of your project is going to be really small. So you probably aren't going to own an entire product. You're most likely going to be owning a feature or even part of the feature.
Okay.
Um, so just to set those expectations, generally, to be honest, it depends on where your end goal is. If you want career growth, but you want to stay in FANG, absolutely go for FANG immediately. But if you want to, let's say, be VP of design one day for like a startup or mid-sized company, then the type of skills that you develop at FANG aren't going to transfer exactly one to one just because it's a completely different system. If
Mhm.
you want to develop like actual like hard skills, a startup to mid-sized company is better for that. If you want to go pure technical and you don't really care about product thinking, then agency is best for that. So these are very broad strokes, but I just want to kind of give you at least my personal view. This is not Facebook's view, but my personal view on the differences and the pros and cons. If we have time near the end, we can elaborate on those, but does that generally make sense?
Yeah. Makes perfect sense. Yep.
Cool. And then,
Uh, quick question. So you said like if you're junior level roles at Fang, they're more working on like smaller features or like tiny subsets. What's
yeah.
an example of something you work on from that?
Um, so I can't tell you what I work on because I can get in trouble, but I'll give you an
Oh
example.
yeah.
That's
I didn't mean like you. I meant like a junior.
yeah.
Yeah.
So a junior designer, um, let's say, let's take LinkedIn for example as a corporation. An example would be um, maybe just the reactions or like writing or creating a post but not the entire full interaction flow but like part of creating a post like maybe adding an attachment or uploading an image. So the interaction path is relatively linear and
Mm.
it'd probably be more of a mid to senior level designer that would own the entire kind of composer experience and you
Okay.
would own like maybe just like one part of that as an example. Whereas, like if you were in a startup, you could be designing like an entire product or entire like
Mhm.
feature offering. So it's quite different.
Mhm.
The difference though at a bigger company like Fang is you get introduced to a lot of very interesting problems at scale. Whereas when you're working at a startup, you probably don't need to consider as many edge cases. Whereas like, if you work for a company that has, a billion users per se, there's no such thing as an edge case. And even though you have a really tiny feature, the amount of like exposure you get to interaction complexity is going to be quite high. Does that
Right.
make sense?
Yes. Makes a lot of sense.
Cool. So, in terms of generally when you want to go for a design job, like I'm sure you've heard like a lot of things between being a specialist and generalist, and the industry is moving more towards generalists, and now they're talking about like T-shaped skill sets. What that really means is there's three big skill sets that everyone will always look for, regardless of where you're at. That's product thinking, interaction design, and visual design. If you're more on the startup agency side, you want to be focusing on interaction and visual. Whereas if you're focusing more on corporation, you want to be focusing on interaction and product thinking. And also, generally, you want to be pretty good at all three, but you want to master two. And just generally for more junior roles, product thinking is less important and the executional skills are more important. And conversely, like as you become more senior, product thinking becomes by far the most important skills. Uh, a common kind of like saying is, as designers or even any role in tech, when you get to high enough level, all of it converges into product leadership. Make sense? Cool.
Yep.
And then in terms of like how to position yourself as like a really good designer, there's two ways to do it. The first way is you want to get to like 99th percentile in a particular scale. It doesn't have to be the big three, but let's say you're god tier in animation, god tier in illustration, god tier in interaction. That's one way to like be a really successful designer, but it's also very hard. A much easier way is if you become extremely specialized at solving problems within a specific niche or domain, and you have the right combination of skills. Meaning, like you're not going to be the best at every skill, but you know just enough to be really good at solving a particular problem space. And then, that's not going to make you be a top candidate for every job out there, but it's going to make you the top candidate for a subset of those jobs. So if you identify a niche or problem space that you're really passionate about early, for example, let's say it's consumer monetization, or it's um, enterprise design for a specific sector or industry, or it's you know growth design, which is what I specialize in, growth and performance design, basically getting products from 0 to 100 and achieving product market fit for the consumer space. You see, that's a very niche thing, and I'm not the best interaction or visual designer, but I know enough about SEO, marketing, branding, content writing, and data combined with like my big three skill set to be a really, really good growth designer for companies that need a growth designer. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, cool. So keep all that in mind as I review your portfolio. A big mistake a lot of designers make when they first start off is they try and be like a generic, or they just end up being a generic designer, and you can't really tell what they specialize in. And that's fine if you have like a god tier level skill that makes you stand out, but most of the time you don't, and the amount of effort it takes to get there is usually it's going to take years. So as you start to kind of think about your portfolio, you maybe don't need to do this now, but you want to be very intentional with the jobs you take and the projects that you take on. So you can kind of create what we call like a career narrative that's like, hey, like I did all these I did all these roles and took on all these projects in a very intentional way to build, domain expertise, context, and the right combination of skills to be the best at solving this type of problem. And you should only hire me for this type of problem. And in fact, most companies will create roles or pay premiums for these types of designers that are especially optimized for solving a specific problem that's high value to them.
Okay.
Okay, cool. I know that's a lot to take in, but take a second to process it and let me know if you have any questions.
So immediately I have two questions.
Sure.
The first one is, I guess I'm still confused on like when you say specialize, is it like a space, like you said, like consumer monetization or something, or is it more like type of like the three foundational skills, like you said, product thinking, visual, interactive design?
Yeah, so when I say specialize, it's more you want to develop the right skills, and those skills might be at different levels to be really good at solving a problem within the space. In terms of how granular the space is, you want it to be as small as possible, but also big enough so that the market is like valuable in there, right? For example, if you were to specialize in enterprise design, that'd be too broad. But if you were to specialize enterprise design for accounting software in Canada, that'd be too niche. So like maybe a good in between, and you have to like size this yourself, is a good in between would be let's say you want to specialize in you know, let's say onboarding experiences for enterprise design. That might be a really good niche. Or you just specialize in enterprise design in general, but for a specific industry like accounting software, um, or the finance sector. In terms of the granularity, like you have to do your own research to figure out like what the right degree is. But once you found it and it's high value, and like the litmus test I use is like are there at least 10 really solid companies in this space that
Mhm.
would find that would pay a lot of money to solve this problem or have a specialized designer to solve these problems? If the
Mhm.
answer is yes, that's probably pretty good. If the answer is like, oh, there's like 1,000 companies or 100 companies, then
Mhm.
that's probably too broad.
Okay. Okay, got it. And then my other question was like, as more of like a younger designer, how do you like position yourself to be that expert when you kind of don't have that much experience? Is it kind of like
Um, yeah,
say,
so,
yeah,
yeah, that makes sense. So there's two types of job markets out there. There's something called a winner take all market and an auction market.
okay.
So a winner take all market means that it's dominated by one specific skill, and
Mhm.
it's dominated by like the top 99th percentile employees in that space, and the seniority is like very strict. So for example, it might be like athletes, comedians, um, actors, like basically like those skills where you have to start training from a really young age. And then, being older and more experienced is like the ranking is like very, very like explicit. An
Mhm.
auction type market, which is what design and tech is in general, is that, there's going to be a lot of different skills and it's not possible for a very senior person to be good at all of them.
Mhm.
So conversely, what that means is like, even if you're the most junior designer, there's going to be certain problems and certain contexts that you have that even the most senior designer would be weaker than you at. So that kind of goes hand in hand with like finding that niche
Mhm.
and developing those like skill sets and contexts to be really good at that space. And then, when you go into a company, even if you are a junior in terms of the big three skill sets, um, you would still have like a lot of authority and trust based off like all the other skills that you developed and all the other context and domain knowledge that you have that is optimized for like that type of problem. So for example, like, let's say like I'm more of a senior designer, but I've had interns that could teach me a lot. And examples where like my intern would do a better job than I would at certain tasks because they have more domain context and knowledge than I do. And maybe like part of that requires like a special skill that I don't have. For example, I'm not like super great at animation. I'm not really good at coding. But I've had like design interns who have a background in like, computer science. And if I was tasked to build like, let's say a dev tool at work or something, then that intern with a CS background would probably do a better job than I would. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, makes sense.
Cool. So I know there's a lot of context, but hopefully that was super valuable. I just wanted to set the stage because, I could give you generic advice, but then it wouldn't help you as much.
Yeah, no, that was awesome. Thank you. Just real quick, do you hear vacuuming at all?
No.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure.
Yeah, we're good. Cool. So it says, "Hey, I'm Lauren, a product designer focused on visual interaction design, previously at Walmart, working at the future grocery." So this is fine, but the second sentence here is too generic, right? You want to basically have a very crisp headline for what type of niche designer you are.
Yeah.
So I like how you have like the future of grocery. So let's say you worked at Walmart and then you also worked at a bunch of other commerce type businesses. You
Yeah.
could say something like, "Hey, I'm Lauren. I'm a product designer specializing in commerce experiences, particularly in user retention within the space." Something like that would be really good. Obviously, a company or recruiter not from a commerce company is not going to be attracted to that, but a company that is in the commerce space would be. And ideally, you want to pick the opportunities, the projects, and the experiences
Yep.
in the space that you actually want. You want to optimize for that instead of just like, take on very random opportunities, if that makes sense.
Yep. Yep. Makes sense.
So like right now, it looks like Walmart has food.
Yep.
Nextball is also food,
Yep.
and both of them have commerce. So I feel like that would kind of be like maybe like what you wanted to lead with.
Mhm.
I also want to kind of mention that you can always change your specialization over time. Like I've done a lot of different work in different industries,
Mhm.
but when I pitch myself as a designer, I only emphasize the ones that kind of create that career narrative tailored towards a problem that the company I'm interviewing with uh,
Mhm.
needs a solution for. If that
Got it.
makes sense. So
Yes.
maybe you can just say something like, "Hey, I'm Lauren, a product designer focused on the food and drink space, particularly in commerce design."
Okay.
Okay, cool.
Gotcha.
So let me kind of give you some other high-level tips on the approach for portfolios. So generally, you want to demonstrate the big three skill set at a minimum.
Mhm.
Um, you don't need to show the big three skills in each case study evenly. You can emphasize certain case studies. Like this case study is a great example of my interaction design skills. This case study is a really good example of my visual design skills.
Okay.
Not every case study needs to demonstrate all three skills.
Okay.
So I like how you have the tags here, but they're kind of repeated.
Yeah.
You want to be very specific, like this is my interaction case study, this is my UX research case
Mhm.
study, this is
Okay.
my visual design case study. Um,
Okay.
and in this scenario where like it's a massive project where you've actually done like um, you know everything, you can actually split that project up into separate case studies. If that
Okay.
makes So
Yeah.
let's say you design an entire app, you can
Mhm.
pull out like, one particular feature and then just zoom in on the interaction part for just that. And then you
Mhm.
can have another case study for the same project about design systems and use that to call out your visual design skills. Does that make sense?
Yep. Makes sense.
So generally, you want to aim for about a 6 to 8 minute reading time per case
Mhm.
study, and you want like the skill that you're trying to exhibit to be very obvious.
Okay.
And you also want to focus on storytelling.
Yep.
I think like the appetite for sorry, the siren in the back. I'm sorry.
Nice.
So generally, the appetite for case studies, I think, is shifting away from what boot camps teach you. Like boot camps focus a lot on process,
Mhm.
and maybe that's true for very, very junior designers, but that was also like 5 years ago, right? Back then when UX was still fresh and new, people
Mhm.
wanted to see that, you are a UX designer and you're not just a visual designer, because back then there were a lot of visual designers and graphic designers branding themselves as UX designers.
Mhm.
That's why process is really important. They wanted to see, personas and like whiteboarding and notes and and stickies.
Mhm.
That's like very old style now. It's not really as good because now everyone knows how to do that because of the boot camps. So now you want to focus on storytelling, narrative, and most of all, business impact, and
Mhm.
ideally a lot of product thinking as well. So a recruiter will generally go through your case study. Well, like they go to home, they'll usually click into like one or two of them, and
Mhm.
then they'll spend, let's say, 30 seconds to 2 minutes scanning it, like skimming it really quickly like this. And then
Okay.
they put you on a short list. And usually what they're doing here is like they're just checking for quick indicators that you have a foundation in the big three, right? So we're checking
Mhm.
your visual design, we're checking interaction and product thinking. We just maybe we'll read like the intro here. And then if
Mhm.
you pass that minimum threshold, you get added to a short list. And then afterwards, this isn't Facebook, by the way, this is general. The recruiter will basically send your profile to designers internally, and those designers will spend a bit more time, maybe up to 10 minutes per candidate, going through your stuff in more detail.
Okay.
So you kind of have to optimize for both the first pass and the second pass, if that makes sense.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I'm going to pretend I'm a recruiter right now and spend 30 seconds going through this. So mix poll, it's a menu redesign. It looks like you kind of explain what this is. And then I'm checking for, I'm like, okay, cool. So you have prototyping skills. I see interactions, that's good. And the visual design looks pretty good. So like just at this point, that would be enough for you to like pass and be added to a shortlist. I'm gonna scroll through a bit more. Okay, so this is really good. You show an interaction flow. So that's like a +1 at interaction for me.
Mhm.
It shows iteration, which is good. So you're like testing multiple solutions and you're articulating them. That's good. Um, Okay, so you do multiple concepts, good. You've done usability testing, so you're validating your designs, that's good. You have refinement, that's good. Um, so yeah, like you get a pass from me immediately. I see specs. Oh, components even better. So that's like a +1 for visual. Key takeaways, not super useful, but it's not bad to have. I think one thing that would make your case study a little bit stronger is if you showed some like edge cases and error states, which maybe you have, but I haven't looked at it in detail. The
Okay.
only like, it's not even like a red flag, just like a light orange flag, is
Mm.
that all your flows right now look linear. So
Okay.
that's kind of a indicator that, okay, like maybe you have interaction design skills, but maybe it's more on the junior end, or maybe it's not refined. And that's
Mhm.
something that I might flag in your notes when I pass it to a designer to review.
Okay.
That being said, maybe you do have interaction states and stuff, but what I'm looking for is like branching arrows, or
Okay.
arrows that like multiple arrows should be coming out of each page because there's multiple interaction paths, right?
Yep.
Whereas everything you have here is just linear.
Yep.
That's my first initial reaction. So, do you have any questions?
All that made, all that made a lot of sense. My first question was, so I noticed like when you're like scrolling through like, things kind of animated in,
Mhm.
and yeah, you kind of like miss some things. What do you think about just like removing? Well, so I had animation there just to kind of like convey more hierarchy on like all the elements on the page. Um, but I noticed like you missed some of the things. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah,
Like,
don't
and
get rid of the animations. Like, make it really easy and simple. If you want to demonstrate animation skills, don't do it on your portfolio.
okay,
Do it on an actual case study. Um, that's just like my opinion, though. You can obviously A/B test something like this, but um, yeah, I think I would just do away with it. Like for context, my portfolio is literally just in Google Slides because I just want the interaction to be like super simple, straightforward,
yeah,
scalable, and accessible. And I don't want people to waste time, like waiting for
yeah,
it to load or dealing with like complex navigation patterns.
mhm,
To each your own. The only exception, if you want like a really clean, high-end site, is if you're an agency
mm,
or you're trying to target or market yourself as a freelancer. In
mhm,
that case, you want to demonstrate your design taste and your skills and your art direction in your portfolio itself. But
mhm,
if you're just going for like product design roles within companies, then
mhm.
keep it simple.
Okay,
One thing I'm also going to do is I'm going to run your page through Google's Page Speed Insights to see how the loading times are.
okay. I didn't do that.
So you might want to like optimize your file sizes, images, and I don't know where you built this, but if you coded it, you might want to clean up the code. All right, 81, that's actually very good. I'd say anything above like a 75 is reasonable, but if you wanted to improve it more, the easiest thing you could do is, like these file sizes are massive right now, I think. You can
Okay,
definitely go down. You
I
could just,
can
there's
I
a
can actually compress those.
yeah, image optimizer or something. There's a lot of ways you can do it, or you can do it as a JPEG and interlace the image, or you can, create a media query so that, if it's on mobile, you're showing the mobile version. It's not trying to load the desktop version. So I'm gonna try this again with your case study, which I think has more complex animations.
Mhm.
72. So that's not that bad either, but yeah, images are kind of your honestly,
Mm.
if you just fix the images, then like I think you're golden. It's not critical, but just like it's low hanging fruit. So if you have time, I would do it.
Yep.
But 72 is actually quite good.
Okay.
Um, cool. All right, so that's Mixable. I'm gonna go through Mixable in like a lot more detail, but I'll do another quick scan of maybe these two as well, and just tell you my initial reactions. Also, 4 case studies is a lot.
Okay.
You like if there's
The fourth one actually isn't a case study. I just kind of just put it there.
I see. Um, yeah, so generally 1 to 3, but even one case study that's really good is enough sometimes. Or
Yeah.
what you want to do is like you want to go for breadth and depth, right? So case
Mhm.
study should be for depth. And
Mhm.
ideally, you should put a lot of your time, energy, and resources in making like 1 or 2 of them really, really good. And
Mhm.
then if you want to do breadth, you can show like a separate kind of section on your page
Yeah.
that isn't full case studies, but just like little snippets, mock-ups, and embedded prototypes or videos. And
Mhm.
sometimes like I just call like a sandbox or like my experiments or just like other work, just to show like you can do a lot of different things, but
Mhm.
you want them to focus on like one particular case study and you want to drive their attention towards that, because
Yeah.
it would suck if like let's say I go here and then the only case study that I click on is this one, which is
Mhm.
probably going to be your weakest one. That would hurt you, right?
Yeah.
But if you put all your Hack University branding stuff in a separate section and then
Mhm.
kind of like communicated that, this is just like to show breadth and I'm not going into detail, but just showing you I can do a lot of things, then that's
Mhm.
much better. Like what I usually do is like, my case study, I'll show you real quick. Um, this is super long, but I don't send the whole thing. I usually cut it down depending on who I'm working with. But you
Mhm.
can see that it's only one case study. It's like not even that good. Um, but it's 130 slides, right? It's just one case study, but I usually cut it down to like 30 or 40. And you can see that it's focused a lot on storytelling.
So is this did you present this in your portfolio review?
So I have a 30 slide version that I present, and then I send the 130 slide version afterwards to the participants, and they
Okay.
can go through it in more detail if they want to. But yeah, like this is more about storytelling. And I'm showing like a lot of depth, but I
Yeah.
also show just like my dribble, and this is what dribble actually should be used for. Is to show breadth, right? So like I don't have case studies or even descriptions for most of these stuff
Mhm.
to show that like, oh, I've done like a lot of work, 450 shots, and I've done a lot of different types of work ranging from like illustration to animation to branding to desktop to mobile, um,
Mhm.
to even like micro animations like this, just to show breadth. So you have to combine the two, and if you separate them, then the audience that wants to look for breadth will go to the right place, and vice versa for depth. Does that make
Okay. Yep.
Okay, cool. So I'm gonna go through Walmart real quick, and then again, like this looks okay. Although this phone looks really old, so now my first question is like, how old is this case study? Because you don't want to show stuff that's too old. Although the design looks pretty modern. Um,
Okay.
oh, it's a TC. Okay, no, I like your captions. I think that gives a bit of context. Maybe you can make it a bit more clear.
Okay.
Okay, so done research. I like this because like you've kind of like combined your experience with like real life and like you're not creating a purely digital solution or you're not only considering digital factors or like you're not designing a vacuum so to speak. So
Mhm.
this is a huge plus one in my mind already. This is also plus one because prototype up front, very nice. Um, did I see impact? Okay, this is also huge for me. It's like, oh, you've actually tracked metrics. Like these are the numbers I'm assuming that you want to optimize through your design. That's huge. That's also a plus one for me. That's like a plus five for me. I'd
Okay.
even like make this like really, really big.
Okay.
Okay, so you've done a lot of research. You have the original experience, nice. It's always nice to see it before and after.
Mhm.
One thing that you might want to do is if you can add it as like a tab to toggle or flip between the before and after, that'd be really good. Um,
Oh,
I've seen some examples where there's like a little vertical slider and it's
yeah.
like UI refresh or rebranding, and then you can drag it to kind of see like the evolution and the exact
Mhm.
changes. You don't have to go that intense, but showing the before and after is really good because it demonstrates like what you did.
Mhm.
So this is the original. I won't go through too much into that. And then you've explored a lot of concepts. Very, very strong. That's awesome. Yeah, this is great. Usability testing, concept progress over time. Love it. Running behind indicator. Okay, it's good. Iterations, updated design. This is really nice. It shows that you've done like you have some psychology background. You've considered those factors. Test it again. Again, real pictures of like the people you're trying to help. Always
Mhm.
key.
Cool.
Um, Learnings, launch, colon section, outcome. Yeah, this is good. Yeah, again, make these really big, bold it. Okay, this is actually a very, very strong case study. Like this is very good. So like yeah, I would definitely like pass you just looking at these two case studies. I'm
Okay.
looking at your other two just to see if like they actually hurt you more than they help. Hopefully
Hmm.
they'll help, but let's take a look. This is really nice because it's live. So it shows like, oh, you've actually worked with an engineer, you handed off design specs, and the project actually shipped. That's always like huge. I actually always click on the site first before I even scroll down.
Okay.
So, okay, design's pretty clean. It's nice. Aquafina, love it. Okay, cool. Okay, so this looks pretty clean. Like this site looks like normal. It's stable. So I'll probably go back here now. And then, okay, yeah, I really like how you have embedded prototypes at the beginning. That's very strong. Full process, validation dating. Nice.
Oh,
Um,
do you know Subtle Asian dating?
yeah, yeah, I'm in the group all the time. It's great.
Okay.
Yeah, I know, it's awesome. Um, Were you like a mod or something, or did you like partner with them, or did you just see it as like a market opportunity?
It was a market opportunity. And then we messaged. So this is my brother and I, who we also do Pack University. Um, we messaged the admins. This was like 2 years ago. Messaged the admin saying like, "Hey, we have this app. Can we just like, what do you guys think of this?" And then they're like, "Oh, that's cool. Yeah, you can just um, put it on our or like promote it on our page on the group." And we were like, "Okay, cool." So then we tried it, and yeah, it was pretty fun.
Cool. So yeah, this is an example of an artifact that I think is outdated because like, at this point, like you don't need to prove to me that you wireframed on paper, right? Like it's more valuable for you to actually show me something that I can actually read. So
Okay.
you already have like lo-fi digital wireframes here. This might be enough. Or
Yeah.
maybe you want to like digitize some of it, but this isn't readable for anyone and
Okay.
doesn't really serve a purpose. Like maybe it did 5 years ago, but not anymore. So I would potentially consider getting rid of it.
Okay. Yeah, I kept that because I didn't have a digital version of the sketches, so I wanted to show the exploration through the sketches. But I guess if you can't understand it or read it, there's no point. I mean,
Yeah, like you don't have to like try and convince me that you started sketching first. Honestly, like at most companies, especially corporate companies, they don't care about your process. They care about your impact.
yeah.
And the only reason I check for iteration and concept exploration is because traditionally that has a very high correlation with maximizing impact
Mhm.
because you're getting to the best solution rather than the first solution.
Mhm.
And that's more of a checkbox in my mind than like, oh, like what was your exact process? Does that make sense?
Yes.
So this is good. Scenario one. Yeah, I would get rid of these animations. If I was scrolling really quickly, I wouldn't even see
Okay.
this. Scenario one, scenario two. Okay, cool. Let's put you guys. This is great because like, oh, like you've done email design. That's actually surprisingly like a niche skill. A lot of designers don't know how to do
Oh,
it accurately.
okay.
Um, okay. This like the numbers, like I really like how you called these out. Do the same kind of formatting
Hmm.
for all your other case studies and move it to the top. It's okay to repeat it, but always have the impact at the very top, followed by the prototype. The two
Okay.
most important things you want at the very top to minimize bounce rate.
Okay.
So learnings, that's good. More features. Okay, that's good. Discover. Yeah, so this is a good example because like, oh, you've considered an actual error state slash edge case. That's like a +1 for me in terms of interaction design.
Okay.
And then branding. So this is a very long project actually, but it's actually a very good project. You can potentially split this into two separate case studies
Okay.
because I think this might be your longest one
Yeah.
yet. Um, Yeah, this is good. Although you potentially maybe want to remove these two metrics that don't really mean as much.
Okay.
But this is huge actually. So I actually think you have a fairly good shot at coming in at an intermediate level. So
Oh, really? Okay.
yeah, just based off like, well, if you want to book more sessions, we can work on interview skills. But in terms of portfolio, getting very strong signals so far at the intermediate level.
Yeah, I was actually gonna ask you towards the end, like if we can book more sessions, I'd love to.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like assuming you find this valuable, I'm happy to always make time.
Yeah.
Okay.
I had two other questions, but I don't know if you had anything else to.
So now I'm planning to go into them in more depth now. So before we go into detail, we can take a quick break and I can answer your questions.
Okay, yeah. The first one is it's related to impact or like the outcome. Um, so what are good things to add, and like what's enough of an impact to show that like, oh, this is amazing. This is an amazing project.
Yeah, that's a great question. So let's think about what the two most valuable and impactful metrics are for a business. So traditionally, for more corporate businesses, it's going to be revenue,
Mhm.
and for more startups, it's going to be growth in terms of you know um, user conversion, user retention, session duration,
Mhm.
and you want to track that over time. So growth and revenue are the two most important metrics.
Mhm.
Sometimes you can't directly measure those things, so you use like surrogate measures or proxy measures. So any sort of metric that ladders up into either of those two buckets is going to be very valuable for you to show.
Mhm. Okay.
Um,
So yeah.
and ideally, if you have a redesign, you want to
Yep.
show the metric before as the baseline, and you want to show the metric afterwards. If you graph it and the graph looks exponential, 10,000%, please include that graph because that's like the best way to demonstrate the impact. A lot of the times, it takes like a while, even a couple months, before you can see the full extent of the impact. So that's why it's always good to graph it. And
Mhm.
sometimes you might want to play with the wording to say, like, oh, after 3 months, we increased revenue by $1 million, rather than saying like, oh, immediately after we launch, we increased the revenue by like 1%. Like there's gonna be you can play with the wording and like the kind of the way you phrase a metric to make it sound as impressive as possible.
Mhm. Okay. Um, and then so like some things, like for instance, like on Walmart, we had these metrics.
Mhm.
It's it's kind of hard to tie that back to the revenue because we didn't really do that.
Right.
Is that an issue?
It's not like a deal breaker. It's more like if you can try and do it. And in the future, when you take opportunities for projects, try and make sure that you can somehow attribute it towards the growth or the revenue. Like for this one, like you technically could have if you were like watching out for it to start,
Yeah,
because I'm assuming this is trying to save the save or like maxim or optimize like the time spent packing
yeah,
groceries, right?
yep,
So like
yep,
you know that indirectly can help user retention, because if you decrease the time, then users are more satisfied with your service and they're more likely to stay on as customers, right?
yep,
Or you can say that if you pay, well, this might be kind of bad, but like let's say you have to hire like 100 people, right? If you optimize it and people can do it in less time, then they only need to hire 70 people,
yep.
and that caught the savings in employee wages counts as revenue as well.
Okay,
So you definitely could have done it. Like I know you're not working there anymore, so it might be hard to attribute it back.
yeah.
But definitely try and keep an eye on this for the future. And when you start a new project in the future, like
Hmm.
you have to decide on something called a North Star metric, meaning this is the metric that we will optimize above all else and make trade-offs and compromises if need be to keep this metric as high as possible. And then that metric needs to be very clearly linked to either growth or revenue.
Got it. Okay. So in this case, there, what you were saying, do you think it'll be like, is it okay if I just add on like, hey, because of this, I estimate that this should
Yeah,
have saved.
you can say an estimate, that's fine. Yeah,
Okay.
and it's pretty easy to do, right? Like
Yeah.
you can like do some like back of the napkin math. Like let's say Walmart pays each packer like $15. Every packer
Mhm.
gets like 1,000 packs per day. But with your thing,
Mhm.
they do 1,200 packs per day. And if you ballpark the number of employees and like the extra I guess like employee value generated from an extra 200 packs. You multiply, extrapolate over time, then you get a number.
Got it. Okay.
Cool.
Sweet.
Yeah, like honestly,
Uh,
it's looking really good,
yeah.
dude. Like I think in your Instagram DMs, you said you're doing like another case study. I don't even know if you need to do another case study. I think I'm focused more on reformatting what you do have.
The reason why I want to do another one or think about it was because so right now I have um responsive web and then Android. I don't have iOS, so that's what the other project is. I don't know if you think I need to. And then my second question actually is kind of related. So I have another project that's the one I want to do next.
Mhm.
It's iOS and it's very heavy or very strong in interaction and visual design. Um, but it actually didn't get shipped or launched, so there's no like outcome.
Mhm.
But it does have a stronger like visual design and interaction design like chops in there. So I don't know what you think about that. And it's iOS, so
Um, like so it depends, right? Like you can have all of it on your website, but maybe you want to create like a visual hierarchy,
yeah.
so that you want to draw people's attention to like your best case studies or your most
Mhm.
comprehensive case studies.
Okay.
And then when you engage with the recruiter, right, instead, don't just be like, hey, here's a portfolio link. Be like, here is this case study for interaction design. Here's this case study for visual design. Here's this case study for an example of really good product thinking. Here's this case study for user research. Then that's a bit more okay. And then you should be okay with the expectation that, they're not going to go through all of them, just what's most relevant to that company.
Okay.
Um, and, that is okay. Actually, that's even probably better to do, but I just usually don't recommend it because it's creating a lot of extra work for you. So
Yeah.
it's up to you if you want to do it and you think it's like valuable for you, or you just want to have more options in terms of like companies and offers, then feel free to do it. But I would just like create some sort of hierarchy to draw people's attention.
Okay. Got it. I think then I think I'll skip that and fine tune these then.
Yeah, if anything, like I would just start interviewing, and then just kind of like, taking those like data points and figuring out like what companies you want to go for, and then kind of like just optimize your portfolio afterwards. You don't have to do like that much work up front. I think you're in a good spot already. You just have to make some of the tweaks that I mentioned, and
Yeah.
I will send you this recording afterwards so you can refer back to it.
Sweet.
So we have about 10 minutes left. I want to kind of take a quick check and see, do you want me to go through one of these case studies in like extreme detail, or do you have more general Q&A questions that you want to ask me?
Uh Probably the former, like go into more detail.
Okay.
Um,
Which
yeah.
one do you want me to look at?
I guess if you're a hiring manager, what would you? I guess it's now the second pass.
Yeah,
Uh,
pass. I would probably go to Walmart because this is the only company name that I recognize.
yeah.
And this, I don't, it's not clear to me if this is like a hypothetical side project. Like, I want to prioritize projects that have shipped.
Yep.
Um, and ideally, what would be even better is if you wrote some of the impact on the actual card itself. So it'd be like, oh, like this is live, this I shipped on this day, and here are the kind of metrics. And then, I'm
Okay.
like, oh, that's interesting. You somehow increased conversion rate by 20%. I'm interested in that versus me having to guess.
Okay. So you think like instead of saying just like enhancing the menu experience for hungry customers, I can say like in the sentence enhancing the menu experience by increasing this metric by this
Yeah,
amount.
exactly.
Okay. And then also add like launched in this November 2020 or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, that'd be a lot better.
Okay,
Okay. Okay, so I will go through the Walmart one then. Okay.
cool.
All right. So Walmart has been aggressively expanding grocery pickup. To help with that, we have an app called Gift. I love the design of a new feature that help personal shoppers better manage their time and fulfill orders. Okay, so this is good. It gives me a lot of context very simply. I So generally pretty good. I would just see if I can crisp up the articulation of the prompt a little bit more. So you said that, okay, so I know you're improving something on the GIF and you're trying to help personal shoppers better manage their time to fill orders faster. Like,
Mhm.
sure, like that's a nice to have, but why? Like, I want you to identify either a problem or an opportunity. For example, you could say that personal shoppers are, or you can say like customers are dissatisfied with the time it takes a personal shopper to complete their order. That's a problem, right?
Yeah.
Uh, Even better if you can quantify it. It's like, oh, like, um, therefore, we are trying to get the shopping time down to 20 minutes. And then
Hmm.
you want to design an app to kind of target that. That would be much stronger.
Okay.
Whereas, like, better manage your time and fulfill orders faster is too generic for me. It's like too flowery. It's like, oh, what does that mean? How did you track it? What is the
Mhm.
impact? What is the opportunity? Something like that. Or like conversely, you can say this is maybe how you would articulate the dating app. You would
Mhm.
say something like, in 2018, the the market for online dating within the Asian community has increased by 3,000%, but there's no existing solution that works for them because of this metric. So you designed a solution to kind of capitalize on the opportunity. So
Yeah.
you can do either or, but you want to quantify it if possible, and you want to be very specific.
Okay. Got it.
Cool. So prototype, this is cool. This is awesome. It would be nice if I had some sort of like, I don't know if it's gonna be hard to do, but like some sort of like progress bar so I can like, pause it, like, and like kind of scrub between like left and right. I think this is just a GIF maybe. Like,
It's actually a video. I'd remove the um
oh, I
stuff.
would, I would consider adding it back in
Okay. Okay, got it.
because like I don't know when it starts playing, right? Does it start
Yeah.
playing as soon as the page loads or when I scroll to here?
Yeah.
Because if it's on page load, then depending on how much time I spent here, I'm not starting at the beginning of the video. And
Yeah.
then if I want to see, I'd have to wait for it to repeat, which is not a great experience.
Okay.
So outcomes is nice. Increase. Tell me, yeah, ideally if you can tie these to like revenue or growth, that'd be better.
Hmm. Hmm.
Quantify this if possible.
Okay.
Um, and it can be qualitative too, right? It can be like customer satisfaction rating or something like that.
Yep. Okay.
The problem. Okay, so that's interesting. So this is context and this is prom. It's
Yeah.
big.
So I was gonna say that. I was gonna wait till you got to the problem section to say that.
Hmm.
So do you? So it seems like I should like move the problem up there, right?
Yeah, or maybe you can even condense it a little bit. I mean, this is okay too. Like, maybe I'm spending a bit more time in detail than I would have had, but usually I won't make the judgment until the end because some people order it weirdly. But I like how you framed it as a help might we. That's good. Data showed us show like articulate the actual data if you can.
All right.
Low performing. Yeah, you want to quantify this, like what percentage of the associates are low performing and why? How do you measure low performing? Um, Again, this negatively affected store pickup rates. Like try and quantify if you can, even if you have to estimate it.
Mhm.
And this sentence basically doesn't tell me anything. I would remove it
Okay.
entirely and then just elaborate on this stuff with the actual data.
Okay.
Background info. So this is context.
Yeah. Do you think I should include this, or do you think it's just wasted space?
It's interesting. Like, I like how this sets context. I think it's okay to include because if they aren't interested in this, they'll probably skip through it. So it's fine. Pick. I like how you called out that this is the project. Pick, stage, dispense. Yeah, this is awesome. I liked how it looked like you actually went in and like took videos and like interview people. So this is a
Or do I have a
huge
lot of that?
evidence. How do we know this is a real problem? So this is all qualitative. If you can supplement this with quantitative data, that'd be even better.
Okay. I'm not. How do you do that?
So you kind of talk about the problems here, right?
Yeah.
So if you quantified it here, like that'd be like pretty good.
Okay.
So like number of low performing associates, impact on revenue, impact on customer satisfaction.
Okay.
Hit rate also would be a good thing to quantify.
Okay.
Mm. So the sentence redundant. I don't think you need to say this.
Okay.
Um, and then a good chunk of the issues were related to the app not providing enough performance information. So I want you to explain what performance information is and don't paint broad strokes like saying a good chunk. Just
Hmm.
put here are the results and then summarize it. I like how you have this. It looks like you've done user interviews, so that's good.
Mhm.
Um, again, quantify, quantify, quantify.
Yep. Quantify.
Let's see if you can. And then I saw this as an opportunity to experiment and see if we can. Yeah, so I don't think this says anything. This just sounds very generic to me, right? Like it
Yeah.
doesn't really tell me anything.
Okay.
Opportunity. So this is not really an opportunity. This is a hypothesis.
Okay.
So how the design process usually works is like here's a problem, here's how we quantify it, and how this is how we'll measure it so we know if our solution worked.
Hmm.
And you want to form hypotheses based off your research and data. It's like, oh,
Hmm.
if we change this, then I'll have this impact on this metric, which is tied to the problem.
Hmm.
Um, hypothesis formatted as a if then statement or some
Uh-huh.
if then because. So you can maybe list multiple hypotheses and then kind of elaborate on how you tested them and how you design different solutions for different hypotheses.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't think it's gonna be like too much work for you to redo at this point, but something to keep in mind in the future. But
Okay.
the way this reads, it sounds like a hypothesis
Yep.
that isn't formatted as a hypothesis, so it throws me a little bit off.
So the performance information, that's like very broad. And then when I go to explorations, I explore like different types of performance information
Mm.
within each concept. Do you think I should treat those each different exploration as like a different hypothesis? Like
Yeah,
saying,
I think that'd be like 10 times better. Again,
okay,
a lot of work for you. I want to say like this is like already like let's say like an A minus. It's up to you if you want to put in the work to make it like an S plus.
yeah, I want to do it.
Yeah, like for example, fixing this would be a better use of your time than adding a case study at this point, in my opinion. But
Okay.
again, take whatever I say with a grain of salt. You got to play around with a bit, and this is based off my experiences, both applying and interviewing.
Mhm.
But I think it holds true for most companies.
Okay. Cool.
Um,
We have 2 minutes left. I just went by quick.
so we can go a little bit over. That's totally fine.
Oh, okay.
Start things off. A few of us went to the stores and worked. This is like an actual UXR like tool. It's called like what is it called? Is it called like
Diary study?
no, like diary study is more asynchronous. I think it's like a site visit or empathy building.
Yes,
Yeah,
something like
you can try and call out like the specific tools and methodologies as much as you can, maybe even highlight
that.
them.
I don't know what
Okay,
it's called. I gotta look it up.
yeah, but there's a word for this, and I'm really happy you did this and showed it and had the images.
Yeah.
Um,
So would you say this one's very research heavy then?
this one is very research heavy, but that's not a
Okay.
bad thing. But you just want to set expectations, right? Like if this is the only case that you looked at, I'd be like, am I hiring a researcher or a designer? But there's nothing wrong with being a designer that specializes in research because you're gonna find that certain problem spaces in
Mhm.
certain industries are gonna see research as a huge, huge, huge asset. Whereas if you wanted to be an enterprise designer, research would not be valuable at all, or be very, or not as valuable compared to some other skills.
Mhm.
This sentence here is redundant. I don't think it really means anything.
Okay. Yeah, because it's pretty obvious.
Yeah. Original experience. This is good. A little plus one that you can do is you can maybe show the original experience and then you can annotate over it to highlight what the problems are.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. Um, Again, this doesn't say anything. Like if a sentence doesn't add value, just remove it. It's not
Okay.
a book. You don't need to set the stage. You don't need to,
Mm,
tell a story. Well, sorry, you do need to tell a story, but it should be very fact driven. Like I
mhm.
did this is the impact, this is the order, this is the hypothesis, this is how I validate the hypothesis, and this is proof that my design worked.
Okay.
Okay, I think this is fine. This is pretty good. So it's like, here are the key insights you've gotten from your research. That's good. I would even like take this and like maybe move it up here
Okay.
because it makes more sense for those to be together, right? You did your empathy building exercise, and these are the lessons.
Yep.
It throws me off. It's like, oh, this is the original experience. You can put that underneath.
Okay.
I did um, empathy building site visits first. Here are the
Mhm.
insights, and then I did a in-depth audit of the existing experience, and these are the things I've noticed. And you can
Okay.
do that with like bullet points, or you can do that with annotations.
Got it.
Cool. Design explorations.
Yeah. So I guess here, like
These are
within your
hypotheses.
concept.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I
Go
think
ahead.
these are hypotheses. Um, these are the solutions you would create to test a hypothesis.
Yeah.
So maybe you can have like section underneath above here that says like, here are the hypotheses, or you can be like, hypothesis one, the solution I built to test the hypothesis results, and then a summary after that. I think that format would be a lot more engaging.
Okay.
Whereas like the way you format it now, it makes you just want to like scroll through this really quickly without kind of seeing the actual really good work that you've done.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Also say out of all the portfolio reviews, you're by far the most ready.
Oh. Okay. Thanks.
Um,
I actually ran this through. Let's see. Actually, yeah. Continue. Never mind.
Usability testing. So this is kind of hard for me because I don't remember what concepts one, two, and four are.
Okay.
So maybe a thumbnail of it, or I don't know. Maybe like you can even just like add like a little thing next to the title. It's like, oh, um, move forward versus like in, or you can say validated, invalidated, validated, invalidated, and maybe explain why.
Okay.
That way you can kind of merge these two together.
Okay. And then, so the star wasn't enough, right?
It looks like you start at, oh shit, I didn't even notice that.
Okay. Good to know.
Because if you look at the way it's laid out, it looks like you have a star for every row. So I thought it was like literally
Yeah.
just like a
Okay.
visual indicator. I didn't even notice that there were no stars here.
Okay.
And again, like this is so small, like it's gonna be so easy to miss.
Yeah.
I would just explicitly call it out.
Got it.
Or you can even draw like a diagram. It's like, oh, concepts one, two, three, four.
Mhm.
And then you can just try and act like you can draw like arrows going like this way, and then be like, oh, like concept two, we did not go with. Concept one and three, we went forward with. And then you show like another like thing, like a validation step that you did. It's like, oh, like concept one and three got merged together into concept four or something like that. To
Do you
kind of
mean like from, uh, wait, well, I'm not sure I'm following.
here, let me show you a diagram of Figma real quick.
Okay.
Can you still see?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say, okay, so concept, whoa, 15, so concept one, um, two, three, four, and then this is gonna be really ugly, but let's just say one goes forward, two goes forward, um, and then this is like your validation, so maybe it's like UXR, and then you show like, or concept four are crossed out, concept one are crossed out, these get checked, and then these keep going forward, and then you'd be like usability,
I see.
and then be like, all right, like this gets checked, this gets xed, And then you can also do like, this is maybe concept five, like derivative insights. It just like starts here. And then maybe there's another thing where you do another UXR. And then this one and this one combine to form like, concept six. This is like a visualizer for your like testing plan. It shows like a very methodical and iterative process.
Mhm.
And most people, they only validate like one time. You can show that you've validated multiple steps because it
Mhm.
looks like you did. That's very powerful.
Cool. So this would be just a separate graphic, right? Just
Yeah, yeah. You could maybe show a hypothesis and then show the graphic like right here and maybe replace this section with that graphic.
okay. So then I would show that graphic multiple times then.
Yeah, so what you want to do is, you know how I had that graphic laid out, maybe you want to like just like gray out or decrease the opacity of like the test, or maybe you want to show the test incrementally, right? It's like, all right, this is the test, the first test we did. Here are the findings, which you've laid out really nicely here, and
Mhm.
then show like the extended or the second state of that diagram. All right, this is concept two, and
Mhm.
this is our findings, and do it like that way, more methodical.
Okay.
Cool. Concept four. Good. So we still have a bit more time. So I'm happy to go over. In exchange, I'm just gonna ask if you're cool with. I feel like this is a really, really valuable session, both for you and for other people. Are you
Mhm.
cool if I edit some of this and then post it publicly?
Oh
Um,
yeah. Yeah.
Anonymize you to some degree as well.
Yeah, no worries. That's cool.
Cool. Then we can keep going. So
Just curious, right? Are you posting it like on YouTube or something?
So I just started like a private Facebook mentorship group. So I'm just gonna post it there. So I'm not even gonna post on Instagram.
Okay.
Um, and it'll be like an unlisted video on YouTube.
Yeah, yeah, that's cool.
Okay, cool. Concept two. Yeah, so this is all good. I like the findings. Mhm. And then yeah, I like the summary. That's full done. Iterations. Okay, yeah. So basically, instead of like writing out this huge block of text, you can just replace it with a diagram.
Yeah.
Um, This is good. Second iteration. Okay, yeah. So yeah, it looks like you took a really nice methodical iterative approach. That gets like lost a little bit, but I think once you have those diagrams as anchors, it tends to be a lot more clear on what exactly you did.
Mhm.
That's good. Three more. Yeah, so like this is like a lot of words for saying that this is usability test number three. So yeah, the diagram could replace this whole thing.
Okay.
And this is good too. Maybe you want to show this as a table and be like, these are like the soft metrics I tracked. And if
Okay.
you show some of the numbers or the results, that'd be even better.
Mhm.
Learnings. And maybe you want to be more descriptive. Learnings from user test three, learnings from user test two,
Okay.
learnings from user interview one, something like that. Because I feel like you have learnings and then you have learnings and then learnings and then learnings and summary of insights. It's just really hard to follow. It's like I'm like, oh, like why don't you just like put them all together? But
Yeah.
because like you did them at different stages, and I want you to call that out. Launch. Quantify the positive. You can repeat your like big numbers. People are probably gonna miss them. Like, don't be afraid to flex it. Like, put it in multiple places, bold it, make it really big.
Cool.
If you get even like testimonials from like the shoppers themselves, like, oh, like Bob, shopper at this Walmart, here's his quote saying how much better this new experience is. Obviously, like quantitative metrics are king, but qualitative metrics can be a really good supplement.
Okay.
Calling attention to when you're overdue. Da-da-da. Okay, so this is good. So this is almost like a little like feature highlight of like some of the new changes, which I think is nice. This almost looks like a landing page to me for like their site, which isn't a bad thing. maybe you can make it more explicit and less flowery in terms of like how you language it. But that's also my personal preference. Like maybe some startups might enjoy more of a casual tone. It's up to you. Again, it's very small nitpick, and that's totally your personal preference
Mhm.
and outcome. Okay, yeah. So this outcome you just put like right here, and
Yeah.
then if you have outcomes specific to this feature, you can call it out here as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Key takeaways. Like I have such mixed opinions on key takeaways because one, I feel like everyone writes it and they never really have any like really big groundbreaking insights.
Yeah.
Like this seems just very generic to me. I don't know how valuable this is.
Okay.
Like I think you did a really good job, or you can do a much better job at just articulating the impact and
Mhm.
the data
Mhm.
and both the qualitative and quantitative results.
Mhm.
And that would be enough. I don't think key takeaways are super useful. Like if you really want to write it, like write a reflection on Medium or something and link it here.
Okay.
But I don't think this is super relevant. Um,
Okay. So you think just ending with the outcome is enough?
yeah, or maybe slim this down into just like a paragraph instead of making it like a full page scroll.
Yeah. Okay.
And then this is awesome. You're looking at like other case studies. So yeah, that is yeah, man. This is really good. I mostly just nitpicked, and it's mostly formatting, ordering to tell like a stronger narrative. But all your content is there, and I think the impact is huge. So yeah, really good job. I'll take a few minutes to quickly go through your belt and resume too, and then we can wrap up um, in 10 minutes
Two
or so.
final or two last questions, but they're
Yeah.
more on the homepage. But well,
I don't know. Go ahead. What are your questions?
the first one is more on like so you touched on this earlier, but on the homepage, um, like so I right now have three case studies, and then like Hack University stuff, and then within those three case studies, one is a passion project, so it's work related, and then you said like kind of separating out like have different sections for different types of case studies or work I want to show.
Breadth versus depth.
Yeah. So would you say like the three case studies I have, are they all like more depth? And then I just have one breadth, which is Hack University? Or
Um,
like would you
yeah,
separate them
I'd say
as
that's close to what you have now. For the breadth, I don't even want to call them case studies. It's for the breadth showcase
yeah. Mhm.
highlights. Just write like one sentence and that's enough. Maybe like a title, like a headline and a description. That's all you really need. I would consider even like slimming it down or maybe calling more attention to Hack University in your resume because you have 85K. That's a pretty big audience for something so niche on Instagram.
Mhm.
You can use that to highlight like your social media skills, your growth hacking skills, which would be extremely valuable for like a startup to have, but not so much for a fan company.
Yeah.
But it still is a very good metric and a really good point to show. But maybe it doesn't deserve like such a full comprehensive case study on your website.
Okay. Yeah, I just kind of just slapped images.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So other question was, um, I guess I'm a little confused on what you said on like so one case study is more visual design heavy, another case study is more research heavy. Like, how do you call that out? Uh,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah.
So
So yeah, for sure.
and
So
then I guess from your point of view,
mhm.
like what is which case study or like so
So
like Walmart, what would you say this is heavy in? For mixed bowl, what would you say that's heavy in? And
yeah. Good point. Yeah. So when I kind of said like you want to split it out, it's only if your case study is getting like super long. I think this Walmart one is like, I think once you reformat, it's gonna be like just right in terms of the length.
okay.
Uh, like within a good length, it's gonna be on the lengthier side, but still good.
Mhm.
You want to just like maybe just create like tags, like little skill tags, like you have like on your homepage here,
Yeah.
kind of like this,
Yeah.
but maybe make it a bit more visually prominent, and then
Okay.
just right underneath this section here.
Okay.
Everyone else does, you think?
So do you think the homepage is fine then, like in terms of those tags?
I would just like kind of reformat the tags and call it something else. Like you can't say this is all your case studies are, work, UI, UX, and then research. Try and call more attention to it and use like the big three skill tags that I mentioned, and then also any additional skills. Like it seems you're pretty research heavy, which is awesome. So for Walmart, I would say like I would say product thinking, user research would be like the two biggest. And um, I guess like there's some degree of interaction. It's more like iterative thinking. So if there's a better, more stronger iteration or more stronger interaction case study, and maybe you save that skill tag for that instead.
Okay.
Visually, like like it's good, it's clean. It looks like you apply the material design system really well, but it's also nothing special.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't add the visual design skill tag to this.
Got it.
Cool.
And
Um,
then would that be the case for Mixable and Boba? Would you say those are more visual?
I think like Boba is a bit more on the visual side.
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay.
it's also product thinking too, because you identify an opportunity. Let
Hmm.
me put this again. Like this looks like it's a little bit more interaction heavy, but again, like I want to show like multiple flows and show edge cases and error states, and don't only show linear states.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, end design. So this part is fine. This part is just too generic.
Okay.
And I would just rewrite it with kind of like the niche or specialization in mind that I mentioned. Um,
So from everything you've read so far, what would you say I'm like most specialized in? Or like, what would you think?
um, so industry-wise, like something in like the food and drink slash commerce space, a
Mhm.
slight, you have a good spread between like corporate and startup, I think.
Mhm.
So you can go in either direction. Skill-wise, I think your user research jumps out to me. Like it's quite strong. Um,
Funny. I actually don't like user
Yeah,
research.
I don't like it either, but at least in the Walmart case study, which I looked at in detail, the user research in that case study was extremely strong to me.
Okay.
Um, Visual design, like, it's not bad. It's not exceptionally good. It's like solid, like it gets a pass, but like I wouldn't say you're a god tier visual designer.
Mhm.
Just yet. You can prove me wrong with your future case studies. Um, Interaction design is also good. I think you're actually better than what you're exhibiting right now. If you
Mm.
want to add in those changes, I think it'd be much stronger. Product thinking also seems relatively strong. I think you just need to be a bit more crisp and concise with your phrasing,
Yep.
and also introduce more metrics and figure out how to ladder everything into either revenue or growth.
Okay. Got it.
I will take a look at your resume now. Okay, yeah. So I think this is awesome. You have your numbers here, which is good. It's super clear what you do, and you have your projects. Yeah, like your resume, honestly, at this point is like really, really not that important. It's going to be like 99.9% of your portfolio. So I just wanted to check and make sure there are any red flags, and I don't see any. So I think you're good here.
Okay. So quick question on that. Do you hire managers look at your resume and then decide to look at your portfolio, or is it like they always look at both? Or
They usually don't even look at, like, they might open it and glance at it to see if there's any red flags, but they look at portfolio first.
okay.
And if there's like two candidates that we're deciding between, sometimes we'll look at your resume as a tiebreaker to see if you've done anything else special. But in general, in most cases, it's not really going to do anything for you.
Okay.
Cool. All right. So we're quite a bit over time. So I'm ready to wrap up if you don't have any other questions. How was the session for you? Was it useful?
Oh yeah, this was so useful. Very, very, very helpful. You're very knowledgeable and all this stuff. So I really appreciate it. Yeah, thank you so much. I'm looking through my questions, see if I have anything else. Um, okay. Yeah, I mean the other things I wrote was more so like outside of portfolio review, like navigating an interview, how to get noticed by recruiters and stuff. And
That's like that's
that's
when
a whole other thing.
that's like a whole other session if you.
Yeah, yeah.
So you have my Calendly link. So anytime you want to book another one, just shoot me a ping and we can work
Yeah.
it out. I'm gonna pause the recording now.
Okay.
Stop sharing. Okay, cool. Awesome. Yeah. So I will process this video. I'll upload it to YouTube as an unlisted video,
Yeah.
and then I'll send you the link. And then I'll also maybe share it in my private mentorship group. I'll send you a link too if you want to join. It's just on
Yeah.
Facebook.
Yeah, I'd love to join. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I do like basically a like I'm getting into the habit right now of